The longer we can keep the weeds from germinating and growing, the better we are.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of the State of Soy. I'm Michaela Jordan, reporting from Cambridge, where we're here today with research agronomist Shane Beck, talking about weed management options for this spring as you start to wrap up planting. Shane, as farmers are getting done planting their fields, what weed management options do they have?
The main goal for weed management is to make sure we're applying our pre's, either pre-plant or pre-emerge, and also starting with a clean field. Those are the two most important things to ensure that we have good weed control throughout the season. With the limited amount of herbicides we have available to spray in season, the longer we can keep the weeds from germinating and growing, the better we are. So also adding those residuals with our post application extends the length of how long we can manage our weeds.
There's a lot of talk too with the different issues that are going on around glyphosate, what other options farmers may have. Talk a little bit about cover crop options and other sources of weed management that farmers could use if those herbicides aren't available.
So cover crops can be a very useful tool to us. The biggest challenge with cover crops is getting enough growth in the fall, especially on dry years. That's kind of what we struggled with the last couple years, is we'll get it put out there, but we're getting very minimal growth, and that growth isn't occurring till the spring, which is when the weeds are growing. So to get that good biomass and to make sure we have enough coverage to choke out the weeds is a big issue with the dry fall. But with that, there's also different tillage options we can use. If we don't have herbicides available, cover crops and maybe some tillage are our two best bets at that point.
The Research Center for Farming Innovation does a lot of different trials helping farmers solve the challenges that they're facing on their field. And I know you've done some work with Group 14 herbicides. Can you tell us a little bit about those trials and what results you saw this past year?
This is actually a 2-year trial. We did it in 2023 and 2024. Kind of the idea behind the trial is that farmers were a little concerned with damage they were seeing from applying a Group 14 herbicide pre-emergent. Depending on weather conditions, if it's cold and wet, it generally will see more injury, but from that, the soybeans kind of grow up, they get a little bit of necrotic spots on their cotyledons or their stems, and it makes people a little nervous when they see brown spots on their soybeans early in the season. Our idea behind this trial was to take two different products. We use Fierce EZ bivalent, and then we use Zidua SC. So Fierce EZ is our Group 14, Group 15 herbicide, and then Zidua SC is just a Group 15. So kind of just comparing the Group 14 versus a 15 essentially is what we did. So we had 4 different strips applied in the field, alternating different products. And then we kind of went out there and evaluated them shortly after they emerged to give them an injury score on what we thought was injury. So we rated them from 1 to 9, kind of on a percentage of injury we saw. Overall, we ended up with about a 3 was our average herbicide injury rating. So nothing huge, nothing out of the ordinary there. What we saw overall was actually the Group 14 had a slight yield increase. There was no negative effect anyways. Something to keep in mind though with Group 14s is where we see the most injury is overlap. So basically in our headlands, and when we're spraying into our headlands, sometimes we drift a little bit into our headlands, so then we'll double dosage is what we get. And then generally those soybeans don't survive, so it makes farmers a little extra nervous too when they have a strip where it didn't survive out in the field. But overall, they do grow out of that injury really quickly.
It's good to see that injury isn't causing a major impact on yield, especially if they got a yield boost with those herbicides being applied. Trials are looking a little bit different this year. Some of the trials we do year to year change to be able to find new options for farmers to use. What weed management trials are available this year if farmers are interested?
Yep, so this year we're kind of looking at cover crops and how they can help suppress weeds. So we have long-term cover crop trials. So most of these trials have been in the project 10 plus years. So what that looks at is their strips of cover crops versus strips of no cover crops. So we're partnering with Iowa State this year, the new weed scientist, Wes Everman, and he's going out taking counts in the fields of different weeds and different species of weeds to find out if there's a difference between historic cover crop strips versus non-cover crop strips. And then we'll also have a different trial that's pretty similar, but we mounted cameras to a couple sprayers, and they are imaging the cover crops when it's being terminated to see different weed species and different weed counts out there. If they're interested, they can reach out to me on their email, and I can either get them in contact with their regional agronomist or reach out myself.
The Research Center for Farming Innovation at the Iowa Soybean Association is dedicated to helping farmers face the challenges that they may be seeing in the field, especially when it comes to weed management. Thank you, Shane, for all you do as an agronomist to help farmers in the field with weeds and anything else they may be facing with their soybeans. Reporting for this edition of the State of Soy, I'm Michaela Jordan.
You know, everything starts with the land. We really respect farmers.
There's nothing that we cannot help a client with. The brokerage, the management, the appraisal, and the investment are 4 pillars that really go so well together.
We work with a lot of really great people working incredibly hard to provide for their families, their community, and the country.